A physical examination is a general way of figuring out what a patient's health is from a broad standpoint. Physical exams usually involve looking at TPRs, which is temperature, pulse, and respiration, as well as the overall look and in general health of the animal. For example, you would look at the skin, eyes, and various other locations to make sure everything looks fine. This is usually used by people in order to find out if something is wrong in the first place. From there, you would tell the vet that you notice this is wrong or something in the animal, and then they would go from there. And for this video, I'm going to be giving a physical exam to a ball python right here. So usually to start a physical exam, you would go over the TPR of the animal, which is the temperature, pulse, and respiration rate of the animal. It doesn't really apply to reptiles, though, as their temperature, because they're cold-blooded, is always going to be the temperature of the environment around them. Their pulse is going to depend on how stressed they are or if they're calm and whatnot. He's pretty calm right now, so his pulse is going to be pretty low, but we'll still check it. And when you check the pulse with reptiles, you just want to listen to make sure it all sounds correct, and rather than the actual rate. Same with respiration rate. It varies greatly depending on the individual snake. Some of them will breathe often and short, whereas others are very good at getting large gasps in and hissing at you. So I'm going to check his heart rate and respiration rate now. A snake's heart is right around in this area here. So I'm just gonna put the stethoscope in. I'm gonna try and keep him still like this. It's very faint, but you can hear it just barely in this. And I'm just listening to make sure it sounds regular and there aren't any skips in it. And everything sounds good with the heart. With the lungs, in snakes, rather than having two lungs, they basically just have one very large lung that's going to go from about here all the way down to here. And so you can see when he breathes, if you look closely, you can see when he breathes, most of the body will go in and out. And so you can just listen anywhere in this area. And his respiration sounds just fine there. And so now that we've gotten the pulse and respiration, and as I said, temperature doesn't make any difference, it all sounds fine with him. So now we're going to start looking at the outside of the snake, his general body. I'm going to start from the tail here. With a snake, you're basically just checking the outside, making sure all the scales and whatnot look fine. At the very back, you have, right here, this is the snake's cloaca, which is the opening at which everything exits the body, be it waste or reproductive material. And you can just make sure everything looks fine. You can tell he's a male as well because he has two testes poking out right here on the sides. You can push here and they pop out a bit more. That's about the only thing on the tail end of the snake, and I'm just gonna look at his body as we go along, and there are a few scratches here and there just from him being fed, but other than that, he seems pretty much fine. And when we get to the head, this is where a lot of the examining gets done. I'm going to just restrain him a bit here. When you restrain the snake, you want to have them under your arm like this so that they can be flat, and then you just want to hold them tightly but not too tight. Now if you want to look closer here, I'm looking at the eyes and making sure that they're fine and not foggy or anything. Common place for external parasites to hide is the edge of the eyes, and so I'm just looking to make sure I see nothing there. Also, when snakes shed, sometimes they don't shed their eye caps, and a buildup of unshedded eye caps can eventually lead to blindness if it's not dealt with. Seems to be pretty fine with his eyes. Now I'm going to look closer at his nostrils here, which are on the top. 2 little holes there. Same thing, just look, make sure there aren't any parasites, no damage to them. Then on the front, you can look at his heat pits, which are these small holes there lining the front. Same thing, just making sure it all looks fine. Now that I know those all look fine, we're going to look inside the snake's mouth. And when giving any exam or whatnot, you just want to make sure the animal feels okay afterwards. Like, just give them some attention. Like, I'm just giving him a bit of rubbing here. Now I'm going to restrain him again, like this. And I'm going to look inside his mouth now. So I'm just have him restrained here. His head's looking back up at me, and I'm going to take this tongue depressor and just put it in his mouth here, and he'll open. And I just put it in the back here so that he can't shut his mouth. See in here, you can look at his teeth, which are along the sides here and there. You can look up at the top where the openings from his heat pits and nostrils come in. Then here in the middle, that's his glottis, and that opens up to his lungs. Every time he breathes, you can see it opens up there. That's him taking a breath, and then it closes again. And everything looks fine here. You sort of want to look at his gums and whatnot to make sure there's no excess buildup of mucus and anything. And it all looks pretty fine here, so I'm just going to take it out, let him go. And that is how you give a physical to a ball python or any snake in general. He seems pretty healthy to me.